At the end of this topic, you will be able to define what the cell is, explain the functions of a cell, differentiate unicellular and multicellular organisms, discriminate the plant cell from animal cell, identify prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell, specify various cell organelles present in a cell, define what tissue is, and frame different types of plant tissue and its function. Cell is the structural and functional unit of all living beings. The invention of microscope has opened the door for the detailed study of cell structure and function. The study of cell is called cytology or cell biology. There are organisms made up of single cells called unicellular organisms, and organisms made of more than one cell are called multicellular organisms. Chlamydomonas and yeast and all prokaryotes are good examples for unicellular organisms, and most of the plant and animals possess multicellular body. Plant cells vary in their shape with spherical, rectangular, hexagonal, etc. Plant cell is distinguished from animal cell by possessing cell wall, chloroplast, and large vacuoles. Protoplasm refers the collection of plasma membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, and vacuoles of a cell in which cytoplasm possess cell organelles, namely chloroplast, mitochondria, etc. There are two basic types of cells, namely prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. Prokaryote lacks membrane-bound nucleus and most of the cell organelle, but eukaryote possesses well-bound nucleus and cell organelles like endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, chloroplast, Golgi bodies, ribosomes, lysosomes, etc. to perform various activities. Bacteria is a prokaryote and most of the plants and animals are eukaryotes. Cell is the structural and functional unit of life. Structurally, functionally, and originally similar types of cells are grouped to form a tissue. Example, xylem. A group of tissues perform a specific function, form an organ. Example, leaf. Group of organ forms an organ system which work together to perform one or more functions. Example, root system. Organism is a single living entity with many parts that are interconnected. Example, yeast, mango tree, etc. Plant tissues are basically divided into two categories, namely meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. Meristem is a tissue where cells are constantly dividing and produce new cells. There are three types of meristems. Apical meristems, which are located at the tip of the roots and shoots. They help to increase the length. Intercalary meristems that are mostly seen in grass and helps for regrowth in cut grass. Lateral meristems that are seen on the lateral sides of the shoot and increases the girth of the stem. Permanent tissues are formed from meristems but have lost the capacity to divide continuously. They become differentiated to form simple and complex tissues. Simple tissues are made of single types of cells and provide protection and support to the plant. There are three types of simple tissues: parenchyma for storage, collenchyma for support, and sclerenchyma for protection. Complex tissues are composed of more than one cell type. Example, xylem, which conducts water and minerals, and phloem that helps in conduction of food materials synthesized in leaf. In this topic, you have learned: cell is the structural and functional unit of all living entities. The study of cell is called cytology. The unicellular organisms made of single cell, chlamydomonas, and multicellular organisms made of more than one cell. Plant cells vary in their shape, distinguished from animal cell by possessing cell wall, chloroplast, and large vacuoles. There is two basic types of cells, namely prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell, where prokaryote lacks membrane-bound nucleus and most of the cell organelle, but eukaryote possesses them all. Structurally, functionally, and originally, similar type of cells form a tissue, organ system, and different organ system forms organism. Plant tissue is basically divided into two categories, namely meristematic and permanent tissue. Meristem is a dividing cell, namely apical, intercalary, lateral, and permanent tissue is a mature cell which turns to be simple tissue, namely parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, and complex tissues, namely xylem and phloem.
At the end of the topic, you will be able to define the term nutrition, Name 3 different types of nutrition. Explain autotrophic nutrition. Describe heterotrophic nutrition. Explain mixotrophic nutrition and the 2 different types of it. List down a few examples of parasites. Nutrition. Chemical compounds required for bodybuilding and energy production are called nutrients. Intake of nutrients into the body by an organism is called nutrition. Nutrients may be very simple or very complex, inorganic or organic compounds. Different organisms require different types of nutrients. Plants use water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide to synthesize carbon compounds like carbohydrates. They also use simple nitrogen and sulfur-containing compounds to synthesize complex molecules, like protein and nucleic acids, required for their growth. Nutrition types. Different organisms use different methods to obtain their nutrients, especially of carbon source. Autotrophic, heterotrophic, and mixotrophic nutrition are 3 modes by which organisms obtain their principal source of carbon. Autotrophic nutrition. Organisms which exhibit autotrophic nutrition are called autotrophs. Autotrophs are able to synthesize their nutrients using simple inorganic compounds. They require minerals, water, and carbon dioxide for their growth. They are capable of converting carbon dioxide into various complex organic compounds using different energy sources. This type of nutrition is called autotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition types. Depending on how autotrophs obtain the energy for converting carbon dioxide to organic compounds, there are 2 types of autotrophs: photoautotrophs and chemoautotrophs. Photoautotrophs. Green bacteria, purple bacteria, and cyanobacteria, algae, and higher plants use light as a source of energy to synthesize complex organic molecules. These organisms are called as photoautotrophs. They have special pigments in their body to trap the light energy. Chemoautotrophs. Iron bacteria and archaebacteria live in hostile environments such as deep sea vents. They obtain energy by oxidizing simple inorganic compounds such as hydrogen, iron-containing compounds, sulfur, hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, nitrite, and other nitrogen-containing compounds. Heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophs cannot synthesize their own nutrients. They depend on other sources for the supply of nutrients, including those required for energy production. This type of nutrition is called heterotrophic nutrition. Most of the bacteria, fungi, and animals are heterotrophs. Heterotrophic nutrition types. Heterotrophic nutrition is of 2 types. They are saprophytic nutrition and holozoic nutrition. Saprophytes are the organisms which decompose and degrade the complex molecules present in other dead organisms to simple molecules. Bacteria and fungi absorb these molecules through their body surface. During this process, they add several valuable nutrients to the medium in which they live. In holozoic type of nutrition, animals consume other organisms. Animals showing holozoic type of nutrition are of 3 types, namely herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. Herbivores are animals that consume plants as food. Example: cows, rabbit, sheep. Carnivores are animals that consume other animals as food. Example: lion, tiger. Omnivores are animals that consume both plants and animals. Example, man. Mixotrophic nutrition. In mixotrophic nutrition, there is an association between two different living organisms. Nutrients may be obtained by both the organisms from each other or only by one organism from the other. Mixotrophic nutrition. Types. Mixotrophic nutrition is of two types. They are symbiosis and parasitism. Symbiosis. In this type of association, two organisms live together and they are benefited mutually. One organism gives shelter or nutrients or both to the other organism, while the other organism gives nutrients to the first organism. For example, nitrogen-fixing bacteria called rhizobium live in the root nodules of leguminous plants. Plants provide shelter and nutrients, while bacterium converts atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates and supplies them to the plant. Other examples are lichen, hermit crab, and sea anemone association. Parasitism. It is an association between two organisms in which only one organism gets benefited, and it is called the parasite, and the second is called the host. In this type of association, the parasite is benefited, while the host becomes diseased and may even die. For example, loss of wheat crop due to fungal disease called rust of wheat caused by the fungus Puccinia graminis. In this topic you have learnt nutrients may be very simple or very complex inorganic or organic compounds. Consumption of nutrients is called nutrition. Organisms which exhibit autotrophic nutrition are called autotrophs. Heterotrophs depend on other organisms for the supply of nutrients, including those required for energy production. Mixotrophic nutrition is of two types, symbiosis and parasitism. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria living in the root nodules of leguminous plants is a typical example for symbiotic nutrition. In parasitism, only the parasite is benefited, while the host becomes diseased and may even die.
Photosynthesis. At the end of the topic, you will be able to write the overall reaction of photosynthesis, demonstrate the experiment to prove that oxygen is evolved during photosynthesis, list down the factors affecting photosynthesis, outline the mechanism of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis means synthesis of food with the help of light. Significance of photosynthesis. It is the only process on the earth that utilizes the solar energy to prepare food for all living organisms. It is the only process which can convert simple inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water into complex organic substances like starch. It is the only process which releases oxygen into the atmosphere and make life possible. Let us see the overall chemical reaction of photosynthesis. 6 molecules of carbon dioxide combine with 12 molecules of water in the presence of sunlight. With the help of chlorophyll pigments, it is converted to 1 molecule of glucose, 6 molecules of water, and 6 molecules of oxygen. Photosynthesis is an anabolic process which requires certain apparatus and raw materials to convert the consumed radiant energy to chemical energy. Environmental factors or external factors like light, carbon dioxide, water, temperature, and soil nutrients are essential for photosynthesis. Internal factors like leaf age, leaf orientation, chloroplast, and enzymes also determine the rate of photosynthesis. Light, carbon dioxide, and water are the major raw materials required for photosynthesis. Chloroplast is considered to be the apparatus or site of photosynthesis. Test tube and funnel experiment is conducted to prove that oxygen is evolved during photosynthesis. Click on the animation link and watch the animation to know the experimental procedure and inference of test tube and funnel experiment. Mechanism of photosynthesis involves two reactions. They are light reaction and dark reaction. As the name denotes, light reaction occurs only in the presence of light in the granum of chloroplast. Chlorophyll molecules present on the thylakoid's membrane absorbs light energy and split the water molecules into protons, electrons, and oxygen. These protons and electrons enter into a series of redox reactions and produce energy-rich molecules, ATP and NADPH2. Oxygen is liberated as a byproduct. Dark reaction does not need light. It occurs in the stroma of chloroplast. ATP and NADPH2 produced during light reaction are utilized in dark reaction for the conversion of carbon dioxide to carbohydrate, the sugar. In this topic, let us discuss the mechanism of photosynthesis in detail.
Photosynthesis is influenced by various factors. They are light, temperature, carbon dioxide, chlorophyll distribution, water, mineral soils, and age of the leaf.
In this topic, you have learnt photosynthesis is the only process which releases oxygen into the atmosphere and makes life possible. Test tube and funnel experiment proves that oxygen is liberated during photosynthesis. Chloroplast is the site of photosynthesis. Chloroplast is a double membrane organelle present only in the plant cells.